Stronghold. Oh, man.
Stronghold was awesome.
Stronghold was awesome. But this isn't Stronghold.
This isn't Stronghold.
What should we name our guy? Jimothy Rando.
Jimothy Rando. Your character, he has a decent strength and a decent constitution.
All right.
Everything else about him is average.
True.
He's average. The Rogue's Gate. You stand before the...
Forget it.
God damn you and your fast clicking.
We're in the desert.
Whoa. It's a desert.
All right, let's get some spells going here. I think we forgot to load up on spells initially. Oh, this guy.
That may have been a problem.
Let's cast some fireball here.
Violent.
Actually, I guess we'll need to.
It's not fireball.
rest.
It's violent explosion, my friend. There's a difference.
All right, wait. Where are we going? First of all,
I don't know. Where are you going,
we gotta get
Phil?
to this tower. Now we got mountains to the north of us.
You've got to get to
the west.
Dark Tower.
Yeah, we got to get over there somehow.
I see.
And mountains bar your passage to the north. Well, shit. But you know what we could do? Let's make camp and get our spells back.
That sounds like a reasonable idea.
Let's put some people on watch so we don't get ambushed.
Put most of your people on watch. As you rest, the one guy who's not on watch, everybody else gets really goddamn tired, and they hate you.
Dreams. All right, so I think I saw a wolf over here. I want to hit him with a fireball.
You hit that wolf with a fireball.
Where are you, Wolfie?
You go.
I'm just hunting for enemies here. Ooh, hey, wait a minute.
You found a hole into the ground.
See, the nice thing about holes is, so we can't go north or west because these mountains are in the way, but if we go underground, we could potentially go beneath the mountains.
Oh, there is logic there.
All right, we used our rope to cast it into the abyss.
You tie a
here.
rope and cast it into the abyss.
Let's go down.
And then you
Into
just
the
climb
swampy
down.
depths.
Because everybody loves climbing down into rando holes.
Now, luckily, our rope is still here, so if we wanted to climb back to the surface, we could. Ah, shucks. It done broke.
Your rope broke?
Yeah.
You will have to find another way to the surface. Gee, that seemed very fortuitous.
It's getting pretty dark in here.
Yeah,
Oh, this guy has a bit of a light.
Put him in lead, man. He can guide your
this
way.
guy's good. Ooh, a traitor.
A traitor.
Oops.
Hey guys, I'm the trader who stands around in the swampy underground there. I got some stuff for you.
Hey, man. I want to buy a blue cloak, and I want to buy plate armor.
For 10 gold?
For 10 gold each. That's a good-ass deal.
That's some good deals on that plate armor, my friend.
And we're going to put on our little blue cloak here.
Jimothy Rando.
Look at that. Now he's got his armor and his cloak.
He is equipping up.
Guy's bustin'. He's got a great sword. That's a two-hander. That means you can't put anything in your left-hand slot.
Zweihander.
All right. That's that guy. So, Trent, should we be talking about the actual stream today? Or
We probably should. I mean, we could hang out here and watch you play Rogue's Gate all day.
We could.
Or we could do something else.
I heard a rumor that we got some cool features coming to Neverwinter Nights in the near future.
Lies. All of it lies. What are you fighting?
Ooh,
a green slime. It doesn't seem very ominous.
Oh, yeah, we killed it before the fireball could go off.
And you've got a red potion of vigor.
And this laptop's not running too great.
I heard a rumor.
What's the rumor?
I heard a rumor that today is Gary Gygax's birthday.
Is it really? Uh-oh.
I think it would have been his 80th birthday today.
Good Lord.
I met Gary at... I met him twice. I met him at Gen Con the one year, and trying to remember where I met him this other time.
Oh dear. Bad things are happening.
Everyone is on fire! And the screen is red, and you have died.
Your time is at an end. Without you to lead them, your party quickly falls to infighting and disbands. Your corpse is soon eaten away, and eventually even the memory of your name fades from the world.
Given the name Jimothy Rando, I'm not surprised.
It's unfortunate. All right, well, I guess we should talk about this stream. Hi, folks. Welcome to the Friday Beamdog stream, where we talk about Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, Neverwinter Nights, and Siege of Dragonspear, all of which are, of course, enhanced editions. So today we have some exciting news to tell you about all of our games, every single one of them, in fact, but it's mostly about Neverwinter Nights. Before that, though, we typically like to go over some Beamdog news, so if you're tuned in and wanting to know the bleeding edge of what Beamdog is up to, keep your ears perked.
Yeah, so the big thing for us, we're going to be at PAX West, or as it used to be known, PAX Prime, because I'm all about the Prime, baby. It's all about Prime. We're going to be announcing something there. We'll do a bit of talking about the D&D stuff, but we'll talk about the new thing as well.
There's some exciting stuff to see at PAX for D&D, but it's the new stuff that's the main focus.
Yep. And, I mean, as always, we'll be on a panel. We'll be answering some questions. And we're usually pretty good. We don't duck many questions, so we're kind of good that way.
It's true. We were going to do 2 panels, but now we're just going to do the one. It's going to be laser focused, and it's going to be pretty exciting. The hope is that afterwards you'll be able to hang out with us for a little while, and maybe we'll play some games together. Maybe
we'll see.
We'll see if you're worthy, and if I like you,
if you're worthy,
and if you showered that day, maybe.
Yeah, we're going to also be at the Edmonton Expo, and
that's right.
It should be entertaining.
It's like a tiny version of PAX. It's Edmonton-sized, and it's less about video games. It's kind of like nerd pan culture in general.
Yes.
It's like, if you're a fan of both Aliens and Funko Pops, hey, this is the place for you.
1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Well, I will admit that I do not understand Funko Pops. I do not know why people possess them, but, you know, more power to you if you want them.
Okay. Sign up for a newsletter, because we won't spam you much. We'll just send you funny things, and we'll talk about the games that we're working on.
If 500 people sign up for the newsletter this week, I will write the next newsletter. And
Phil used to write them, and they used to be really funny.
Well, I don't know how funny they'll be now, because I'm less allowed to make fun of the products that we're selling, so it's hard to find humor and positivity, you know?
Yeah. You should make sure you're following us on the Steam developer page, because that is a way to stay connected with us as well. Mm-hmm. We think you should basically be plugged into every possible thing about us.
If we have an orifice, we want you there.
It's dark, man. Very dark. We are still hiring. We have a couple spots that are still open for web development help. Programmer, specifically C++, console experience is a big plus. And we're looking for some technical art help.
You may have noticed we've been hiring for these positions for quite some time.
Yeah, we are packed in here like cordwood, my friends.
Yeah.
We are literally stacked to the roof. But I am out pounding the pavement, up and down the street, huffing along, and trying to make a deal on a new office space.
We're in contention for a few buildings.
And it's looking pretty good. We won't reveal it until we have everything signed, sealed, and delivered, and we're moving our little butts in.
I like the one that was on the second story of that butcher, because it's like, hey, lunch.
Hey, throw me up some meat, man.
Right? And the smell is excellent, because it really binds the team together when you're all suffering from the same thing. So my vote is for the slaughterhouse, and if we don't get it, well, I guess the rendering plant
is the second. I actually stayed at a hotel in Germany when we were doing the Neverwinter Nights press tour that was a converted slaughterhouse. It was kind of crazy.
Is this how that movie Hostel started?
Possibly.
Where it's like,
actually, it was kind of a high-end hotel. It was actually pretty sweet.
Did the ghosts of cows haunt you all night?
And then while in Germany, we went out for Mexican. Apparently, there was a Mexican restaurant that opened up, and the local German fellow thought it was really good. It was some okay Mexican. It was like middle-of-the-road, blandy Mexican.
I guess.
For good Mexican, you got to go to either Southern California or Texas. Well, Texas is a little more.
See, the real fusion of German and Mexican is a chocolate taco.
Chocolate taco.
Which are just delicious. I don't know if you've ever had them before.
Oh, if you are wondering, we have a brilliant device here.
Okay, so this is the big announcement for today. So we had talked about Neverwinter Nights coming to Android, but guys, we have some exciting news here. So we've signed a deal with ourselves to make Neverwinter Nights exclusively released on the brand new Beamdog tablet, which you can see here. This is the first one off the press here. Now, this tablet is it's so far beyond anything that you've seen, perhaps from other companies.
I think key features are the extended mount cameras on the top, both front and back facing cameras. And then, as well, the antenna for your Wi-Fi.
Maximum reception.
An RS-232 port.
Because you never know when you need to access your tablet to your terminal.
And all sorts of other ports. Actually, we're kidding. This is an NVIDIA. This is basically the first Tegra prototype they ever sent us. So this was the first reference tablet version that they had. It still has nickel metal hydride batteries in it to give you a sense of how old it is.
We're going to throw this at the hand again so you can see the back.
It is brilliant.
This thing is awesome. It's been sitting around our office for years. I think they sent it to us in like 2011 or so. This was back then. This was like pre-Honeycomb era.
Thank you, Hand of Dan.
And it was a lot of fun seeing this thing show up in the mail and then booting it up.
What God-forsaken monstrosity is this thing? And the answer is, it's a tablet. And this is what stuff looks like before the get-it-small guys get to work.
And it's not even SD card. I think that's like compact flash. There's a giant slot on the side.
That is a massive, massive slot.
So anyways, Neverwinter Nights will run exclusively on that device, and only that device. There's only one in existence. And if you want it, you have to fight for it.
Yeah. Our friends at Wizards of the Coast sent us a box, a happy little box. Two boxes of Magic the Gathering cards. Core set 2019.
Because the first hit is always free.
Exactly. So we're actually going to be firing up an internal tournament in the next week here.
I have literally never played Magic the Gathering. It is something that I have successfully avoided. And
I blame James Olen. See, James got me started playing it, and at the point I was making an okay salary. So I was like, I could learn how to play this game, or I could simply outspend everyone else and win by attrition. So that was my strategy. So I bought many dollars in Magic cards. I think I had 6 binders when I finally gave them all away.
You gave them away?
I gave them away.
Man, I still have my Pogs. I'm not giving that up. Buried somewhere is a cylinder.
So other things on the table here. I have the Cavalry Saber that I'm still working on. It has a hilt on it now, so it has a pommel. The pommel's, so I've actually threaded the blade, and I put threaded the pommel on as well. So I now have it mostly solid. It's a zebra wood grip. It feels not bad. I think I might make some more changes. Totally got a stab, Phil. But I'm actually getting reasonably happy with it, and then I'll come up with probably ground this round.
No, man, leave it like that. That looks like it could leave a serious dent
Batong.
in somebody's forehead and brain.
And this is a hidden tang. Phil's going to mock it for being low poly.
Look at this thing. Mr. Minecraft over here. You could throw some more tries on there. We have GPUs now.
It's square.
It's not software rendering anymore.
So this is a hidden tang knife. So the thing about a hidden tang is the tang hides within the wood. So it's secured by 2 pins. So I've actually just got the 2 pins kind of loosely stuck in there. So you can actually disassemble the entire knife. So that is what the blade looks like. And it's got the cross guard that slides over top.
I don't know if you appreciate this, but Trent can field strip a knife in 10 seconds.
Not that you would ever want to. So the master plan is basically take it back to the shop, fit it up, be happy with it, epoxy it shut, smash the pins through, squash the pins with the press so they're pinched in, and then grind the handle in the crossguard shape.
And then leave it in someone's back.
Front.
Just put it in there, walk away. There you go.
I'm not going to stab anybody.
Ooh, maybe that's what we'll do at PAX. All right, so if you're wandering around PAX and you suddenly discover, oh, there's a knife between my, and you pull it out, and it's going to be signed by Beamdog. If you bring it back to our panel, we will give you a big old hug.
Yeah, as you
because those are free.
Bleed out and die.
Yeah. All right, what else do we get going on? So we've got. We should open these magic cards.
No, you can't open them.
Everybody wants to see unboxing videos. Are so popular these days.
You and I are neither of us are attractive enough to pull off an unboxing video and make it interesting. While it's true we could add our own unique angles to it, I want to save this for the tournament.
I want to start an unboxing channel, but it unboxes like appliances hot tubs, big things that are fun to unbox. Hey, speaking of Magic the Gathering, I hear there's a new source book available for D&D.
Yeah, I believe it's called the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica.
So this is an interesting blend.
Crossover.
Yeah, it's like you got your peanut butter and my chocolate. So there's Magic the Gathering, which is a card game, and then there's Dungeons and Dragons, which is a tabletop.
Yeah, and Magic the Gathering, the Planeswalkers is set in Ravnica, which is kind of their planescapey setting.
It's very, very exciting. So what's the appeal of the Magic the Gathering fantasy setting within D&D?
That is a good question.
Damn it, you were supposed to have answers.
I think while these planeswalker super wizards are blasting each other and summoning massive giants that smash each other into paste,
I'm down in the alley grinding on rats.
Mana, Bob Rat Killer.
I don't know how to play Magic. Is that something you do? You lay down a card and you're like, mana.
No, it's about tapping. Tapping.
Tap.
No, you don't lay it down. So you put down your land card and then you rotate it to tap it, which you get the energy from that land card and you can use it to cast a spell. And every turn you're allowed to put down a card, a land card, and then you cast as many spells as you want. I blame James Olan. It was bad.
Didn't he have some grand vision for Baldur's Gate 2 Magic that incorporated Magic the Gathering in some capacity?
He was inspired by it, so he wanted the magic spell, like magic combat, to be kind of like Magic the Gathering, so there was a lot of back and forth.
And boy, is there ever.
So along those lines, he put a lot of effort into creating kind of like spell protections and spell breaches, and it was literally about getting into a combat with another mage or a party of mages was literally stripping them down, getting rid of their defenses until you could finally get through to them.
So was he inspired by Magic the Gathering, or was he inspired by onions?
Both.
Okay, well, I mean, they're both equally interesting.
Onions can be pretty inspiring.
And they're tear-jerking, They make you sad. Let's give away a shirt so that we stop testing these people's patience.
We can do that.
The winner of a T-shirt is
Onizuka.
Onizuka?
Onizuka is how I would say it.
Onizuka.
I don't care how you would say it. I would say it Onizuka.
Onizuka.
Here's a question. Any word on NWN EE coming to GOG yet? Last I heard you guys were waiting on GOG. Well, right now we're actually waiting on ourselves. We've got to finish up a feature specifically around the CD key system. Yeah,
so we're actively working on the GOG ticket right now. What we might do, I originally wanted to wait until we had another stable release before pushing to GOG. But in the interests of getting it up there sooner, I think what we'll do is we're going to do a GOG-specific build.
Yep. And
we're looking into the CD key stuff to make that happen. So the tricky bit is Neverwinter Nights still uses the old CD key system with some upgrades.
Yes.
So to make it work with both GOG Galaxy, which is their download client, and to also make it available as just a package that you can download, because there's a lot of requests for that, we have to do a little bit of work on that end. Finagling. I didn't want to mispronounce it.
It's all about the finagling.
The tricky bit is that if you do pull it down as just a package, you might have to manually insert your CD key. We're still looking into how best to handle that. Now, that's already how a lot of people have to use it on GOG, but I would like that to be a nicer experience for you, so we're going to see what we can do. But we're working on it right now.
Here's a question. How can I get a NWN t-shirt to rock at Gen Con or Dragon Con?
Settle down, Shatner.
Lol.
What was the question? How do I get a shirt?
How do we get a Neverwinter t-shirt?
You got to take it off my cold, dead body.
The only way to get those shirts is to win them. And
how do I win them?
By watching our stream and paying attention and answering skill-testing questions.
We will have swag at PAX, so if you track us down and you're like, hey, give me... if you say those words in that order... I will then reach into my pocket and pull out a shirt.
It's good. I was worried that Phil was having a stroke there. Suddenly, Phil's language skills are gone. I'm just going to have to put him down.
That's what I hear when people talk. It's like the teachers on Charlie Brown.
So here's a question. Will iOS have their own version of the Steam Workshop when NWN comes to it next year?
So essentially... Kind of, yeah. So... Workshop means I can go look at a list of interesting things to download and then pull them down. So it won't have that specifically, but it will let you connect to a server, and then it will automatically download all of the necessary hack packs and module stuff that it needs. This is the new feature that we've been pumping up for the past couple of weeks called NW Sync. Bernard, aka Niv, is currently cooking away on this.
He's checking in monster amounts of code around this. It's crazy.
This is the biggest increase to Neverwinter Nights since its initial release. So it's like, how many of you have played like Gary's Mod or any other like modern game that lets you connect to the server and pull down the content? And you don't have to like go spelunking into some website or into the workshop to find exactly the list of mods that you need. Well, it just grabs what it needs.
And it's uniquely identifying each asset, so it can live across multiple hack packs. So if assets are reused, you're just going to pull it once.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll have basically a cache on the device, and you can control the size of that cache. Right now on Android, we've got like a little config panel. And so you can be like, I only want to download 1 gig of data from servers, or I want to have up to like 8 gigs or something like that. And then it will continually replace what's there, so it'll always grab the most recent stuff. And if you haven't used something for a while, it'll cycle that out. So it's kind of the best solution that we could come to, short of actually building a workshop specifically into
and I was looking at some interesting features this morning, specifically around compatibility with that system on Android, because Android, all the newer tablets use ASTC as a texture compression format, and most of the fan-created content uses DXT, or the BioWare variant of DXT that is incompatible with everything else. So we're working on it. We got all sorts of plans within plans within plans. It'll happen. Here's a question. I'm now 45 years old. You have my condolences. Any chance that Goldbox EE will see the light of day before I see the darkness of the grave?
Rights are all locked up right now, man.
Yeah, Goldbox is one of those, there's a lot of spaghetti there. Every time I get close to it, all the people involved just tell me to slowly back away. And it's like, you don't want to go here. Men have been lost here. Better men than you. So I back away slowly.
Better men than you have tried and died.
Yep. Here's a question. What is happening with dynamic UI in Neverwinter Nights EE for monitors of 1680 by 1050 resolution?
So speaking of that, dynamic UI scaling is currently in code review right now.
It's in the works.
So you'll be able to scale outside of steps of 1, 2, 3, 4. That's power of 2 scaling, basically.
Yep.
And we're working on making that not a requirement. So in the near future, a lot of these resolution issues should be going away if everything works out.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is going to be the TrueType font.
Yeah, TrueType font support is in now, and so we've been looking at adjusting font sizes and whatnot. One of our programmers, actually, Sam, he pulled me yesterday and was like, hey, here's a bunch of font sizes. Which ones do you like? So we've been playing with that. I think what we'll do in the end is the font size will be on a slider, so you can arbitrarily change that. And then the UI size might be on a different slider, so you could have small text with large UI. This is something that we're going to have to play with and see.
Yeah, first off, I think part of the goal here as well is for accessibility. People who have poor eyesight can really see kind of the bigger fonts.
So the issue is that like Neverwinter is now no longer on just 4:3 displays that are of low resolution. It now runs
thanks to Android devices like this one, we get to experiment with such novel screen aspect ratios as 2:1, and what's the
you know what the resolution on the Galaxy S8 Plus is? It is 2222 by 1080. What the hell is that? Come on.
Somebody likes their twos.
So we're working on it. And in the process of making the UI all scalable, we've kind of discovered, hey, there's a bunch of really obvious fun things that would be nice to have, like being able to drag windows and whatnot. So we're looking into how we can handle that. As well, for the Android version, we're really working hard on this UI. I think you're going to be very, very pleased with what you see in the end, and a lot of those improvements are going to work their way back into the desktop versions and other future platforms that we move to.
Here's a request. Can Trent produce some self-defense videos, please? No. Trent's whole my whole philosophy on self-defense is nothing beats a really good offense. And if you hit anything with something hard and heavy enough, and you swing it fast enough, it's bound to work.
Okay. Well, I think we all know what a self-defense video with Trent would end up looking like. So while we watch it, let's answer some more questions from the audience here.
I think I may have seen this
I
video.
wish you would start building your own persistent world. Your story in Dungeons & Dragons, something that you would make expansions for, something that would have a ton of players for sure, and something that would make Neverwinter Nights last for a long time. We've had a lot of discussions about a persistent world starter kit.
Yeah, I think the big thing is we could make our persistent world, but with only 64 players or 96 allowed, there would be kind of a rush to get in, so we'd have to run a bunch of them in parallel. And the downside is, it's our world, it's the one thing. And for me, Neverwinter was always, it was about D&D. It's like, in D&D, there's multiple different things you could be doing at any time. At any time, there's 20 different DMs DMing 20 different adventures or more. So I really like the idea of being able to kind of find the kind of game you want to play and play that game, whether it's ours or not. That said, I mean, we haven't totally ruled it out, but at this time we don't have any plans to set up and run our own persistent world.
So in the future, we're going to look at it a little bit more, but I think what would make sense...
Please stop that video of Steve Brule defending himself, because that is distracting me.
What makes the most sense to me is we could build a persistent world, but it would just be a kit that you run on your server, and we'll make it as easy as possible to set up that server. But it would be like, here's the perfect starting point for your persistent world that you could easily expand onto and whatnot.
Yep. Any news on the Icewind Dale 2 EE leads on source code? No. Cam thinks he has some secret angle, but I think he's wrong.
I've heard really angry calls between him and Interplay.
No, he's not angry. He's happy.
Okay, passionate calls between him and Interplay.
Interplay likes him now.
Passionately positive calls between him and Interplay. No, it's we're slowly chipping away at it.
We're looking for the code. We continue to look for the code.
The day that we get the code, I will be loud.
The day we upload code into a Git repository or SVN, we will tell people about it.
By this point, you've worked on a few models. Can we get workflow, max tools, new tutorials? Actually, in the next couple of minutes here, we're going to be bringing on a guy named Alan Miranda. Trent, what's your relationship with this guy?
I think I hired him at one point, and then I worked him hard to get Neverwinter done. He was actually my audio. He handled all the voiceover and all the sound effects and all the music.
And I believe...
And then he went off on his own to do his own bold adventure creation as Ossian Studios. Made a couple expansions for Neverwinter and Neverwinter 2, and made a game for iOS and Android called The Shadowed Sun.
I believe he's responsible for
Darkness Over Daggerford.
Darkness Over Daggerford, that's right.
Yeah.
And as well, Alan's actually helping us out with, you guys remember seeing those new player models that we showed off?
Yeah, Alan and his gang are helping us on that side.
Band of
so we're going to put on our second set of headphones because we really like having Brando things on our heads. Next time we'll get a tiara as well, just for Phil.
Calling up Alan right now.
You call up Alan.
All right, I believe I have him on the phone. I cannot hear him.
It's really creepy to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Alan.
I can hear you now.
How's it going?
Cool. Hey, how's it going, guys?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a lot of work to entertain these people, but we do it every Friday.
Every Friday.
And I know that they appreciate it because I get like dead animals in the mail, letters that are just scrawled chalk that I can't really read, but I think that they're threats, and I appreciate the passion.
I may rush to my shop every Friday morning and quickly do some milling on a piece of brass stock so that I can assemble a knife and have something to show off.
Now, Alan, how do your Fridays typically go?
Like every other day of the week. Get up, work, then go to sleep. That's pretty much it.
You painted a very bleak picture, Alan.
Hey, game dev is not about playing games, as I often tell people. Whenever I tell people I make games, like, oh, it's so fun. You guys play games all day. I'm like, no.
Yeah, well,
it's not.
I play a game called Excel Hero.
Yeah. The truth is, if you are playing games all day, they're broken games. And it's the game you've always wanted, but it's so broken that you just hate it.
Fair enough.
True enough. I do want to say that I've been watching you guys on the stream up until the call started here, and you're very entertaining.
Thank you.
So I really liked Phil's impression of handing out free swag at PAX. That was pretty hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing.
That Phil, he's a funny guy.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that part, because I honestly don't really remember what I sounded like. So, Alan, how about you tell us, how did you get started with Neverwinter? I believe you worked on the original game.
Yes, I did. So Trent was right that he helped hire me into BioWare. From there, I started on the Baldur's Gate series of games with being the producer on Throne of Ball. And once that was done, around the summer of 2001, I had the choice. I could go to Star Wars and work with Casey, or go with Trent and work on Neverwinter. And I chose working with Trent on Neverwinter because we get along pretty well. Not to say I didn't get along with Casey, he was good too, but I joined BioWare to work on D&D. And with the Baldur's Gate stuff wrapping up, I thought, I want to get in on Neverwinter. So yeah, I jumped in on there and was Trent's audio producer, as well as localization producer for a time until that got handed off. And it was a really busy but enjoyable time. So that was my start in Neverwinter.
So tell me about young Trent. That's really what we're here to hear about. I want to hear all the embarrassing things. Did he have a mullet? Just go wild.
Young Trent pretty much looked the same as current Trent. Big and muscly. There's not much difference.
I do not age. It's because I eat children.
Yeah.
Wow, this just took a turn.
By the way, Trent, I thought you shaved your head for the Minsk thing for many eyes.
It looked real.
Cat, man. It
was. I could not tell. Yeah, it did. Okay, so yeah, Trent's just the same. He hasn't changed.
All right. Well, I'm disappointed that there isn't like a story about how he like used to have a face tattoo or something. But I'll keep prying. I'm gonna find something embarrassing one day.
No, in fact, I think Trent is more muscly now than he was back then.
He's cut away the chaff, leaving only Trent behind. So after you left BioWare, you started Ossian Studios.
Yeah, that's right. So originally I had been living in Vancouver, and then to work at BioWare, we moved to Edmonton. And then we decided to come back to the West Coast in Vancouver again. And I wasn't really wanting to work on or at another large studio, so we decided to start our own small studio, Ossian Studios. And my great love is working on RPGs. So we started to try to get an RPG going, our own game. It didn't quite work out as I intended. And so at the time I was looking for other opportunities, and I talked to Greg Zeschuk at GDC. This must have been 2004, I think, maybe 5, and asked about the possibility of making some kind of mod, expansion, something like that for Neverwinter Nights. And he was on the idea, he liked it. And so that's kind of how we got started with Darkness Over Daggerford, without knowing exactly what we were doing. And even though I'd been on the project back at BioWare, I had never made a mod. I had no idea what exactly went into it. I just knew there was a big mod community. And so that's sort of where it started. Wanting to do a mod and looking for people to do it.
How did you put that team together?
Initially, I was looking, the traditional way to make games is sort of you look who's in your area, right? So I was looking for people in Vancouver who were Neverwinter modders. And to varying degrees, it was somewhat successful and somewhat not. And that's when I came to the conclusion that Ossian really needs to be sort of a virtual company. That is, I try to hire, the best people I can from anywhere. I don't care. You can be in the North Pole as long as you have an internet connection to work on stuff. And that's when we sort of...
Claus?
Yeah, great worker.
You get this whole shelf of elves that just do your stuff.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's how the virtual company side of Ossian Studios came around. We're still a virtual company today. We work with people from all over the world. I just work out of my home, essentially. So yeah.
Virtual company in the mid-2000s, I mean, back then that was still a pretty dicey prospect. A lot of the online collaboration tools just didn't exist back then. What were some of the challenges that you had being a very early internet-only company?
The main challenge is communication.
Yep.
So communication about anything, whether it's planning or reviewing, it was a lot more difficult back then than it is now. You could with things like Trello and other things. Back then we did use Skype, so Skype was around in 2004 and 5.
In the exact same state it is today.
I think it's a little worse off, actually. But
better, yeah.
Yeah, it did. But back then, and it's true as now, is when you do a virtual company, there's a big burden for communication. If if you're in the same office, you can lean over someone's monitor and they show you what they're working on. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool. How about this? Can you switch that? Done. If you do it remotely, you have to get their content, potentially install it in whatever engine you're working on, get it up and running. And so it takes several times longer, or it can, depending on what it is. So the communication stuff is more of a time sink, but we managed to do it. I know we'll talk about Daggerford, but our second project, Mysteries of Westgate, we had gotten this all down. Our team worked away. We had intended to do 7 months, and the project ran to 8. So the point is, you can make it work. If you know how to do it, it works.
And Mysteries of Westgate wasn't, just a small module. That was a full expansion that had just a ton of content in it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was the size of, say, Mask of the Betrayer expansion. We didn't have all the new creatures and so on. But in terms of adventure length, I think it was 20-plus hours. Yep. So it was a pretty big endeavor. And the fact that we did it in 8 months, I'm really proud of that.
That's the crazy bit, is being able to turn around. And that was kind of the big strength of Neverwinter 1 and 2, is that once the core game was there, producing content was actually quite fast for you guys.
Somewhat. Neverwinter 2, the making areas in that engine was a lot slower. This was a complaint from end users too. That's the strength of Neverwinter 1. Anyone can go down and paint an area. That's what's great about it.
I think we've talked about that on the stream before. The contrast between Neverwinter 1 and 2 was that Neverwinter 1 was within 5 seconds, me, a new user who's never used the toolset before, I can puzzle out how to knock down a few tiles and hit that play button, and I'm there. And in Neverwinter 2, I was never able to experience that because it was just more steps. Like, it was still approachable, but just that feeling of click, 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 and I'm in a new game that I designed. It just wasn't really there.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing, but I think Neverwinter 1 is really, really amazing at that.
And that's, to me, that's the potential for using that aspect in the future of Neverwinter in the enhanced edition with doing new stuff for it, like say new art and new looks. That's the strength. You guys can make something that's going to look even awesomer, but still be easy to do, right? And more than any other game that's out there, at least in terms of RPGs that I know of. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I think that was always kind of a big point with Neverwinter, was that we didn't have any tools that we didn't give to the end users, that they could build the same content that we could, and that we used that same tool set, that same content, and you could actually even crack open our modules and see how we did stuff. So it was really, really about the democratization of game design and making it accessible to people who wanted to make their own content and have fun with it.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Neverwinter lasted for so many years. Even after Neverwinter 2 came out, people were still doing stuff for that game, because it was so easy to make games for it. And that was one of the reasons why, when we did Darkness Over Daggerford, I was able to get some good people from the community, because a community had developed around that thing. Because, like you said, you gave the exact same tools to them to make their games. And so you had all these people making their own adventures. So it was great looking for people, finding people, and bringing them in to work on Daggerford.
Well, that was even the standard BioWare hiring process. It's like, oh, you want to be a designer at BioWare? Where's your Neverwinter Nights mod? Oh, you didn't make one. Well, we're not going to look at your resume.
Yeah. And as well, I mean, a testament to how easy it was to develop a Neverwinter. Look how many schools adopted it as part of their game design curriculum.
There was quite a few, and I mean, we just recently did a deal with, who was it? University down in Texas. Yeah, where we basically gave them a bunch of, we gave them a discount on a bunch of copies, because it's in our best interest to get it into schools. So educational discounts, it makes a lot of sense for us.
Yeah, it's not just schools though. I heard back in the day, this was in the mid-2000s, I knew of people who told me their companies were using it internally to mock up stuff.
Yep. Well, Dragon Age.
Yeah, Dragon Age, they built the entire story in Neverwinter Nights while the dev team was working on the engine. And then they revised the entire story in Neverwinter Nights because the team was still working on the engine.
we have done that as well. So you mentioned Daggerford. Let's tell the story of Daggerford. How did Daggerford start? What was the origin of that module?
That's a long time ago.
That's why people tune in.
Give us the short and sweet edition.
Short and sweet. So I was balancing several things at the time. I was balancing coming up with a story. I had no lead designer. It was just me initially, and I had to find some key people. And it was a tricky thing. Some people worked out, some people didn't. So I was trying to come up with a good story while trying to find a good team. And back then, I had never written a narrative before, so I went through several revisions with BioWare, giving feedback on stuff. I was like, oh, this is not good. Can you make it better? Eventually, we got to something that was good. And looking back on it now, it's okay. It's good. I think we could do a lot better now at Ossian. But back then, it turns out to be a fun game. And then the other thing was balancing, finding people. I would hire a designer, and then they wouldn't work out. It was a really rocky start. That the span between like the first half of 2005 was really difficult. Eventually, we got to the point that I hired Kevin Smith, Code Poets from the community. It was in August 2005, and he'd been working on a premium mod for BioWare, and it hadn't worked out, or there was some approval issue with Atari. And so he joined us as a scripter, and he helped pull the technical side together. And then eventually, over time, I had other writers come in and fill out all the quests. Because the issue with Daggerford, and you get this on a lot of games, is that it ballooned in terms of scope. Like you think you wanted to do something small, okay, medium size, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and kind of goes nuts, which is, in the end, great for who plays it, but developing it was a nightmare.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Everyone knows who's played games what I'm talking about. So, yeah, it was a rocky ride. Later on, as we got closer to finishing, you probably remember this, with the whole Atari thing. Atari stopped giving approvals on premium mods, and we got dumped. And we were probably the closest one to finishing, and which was a really huge disappointment for us. Yep. So we'd all been like slaving away and working for a deadline for that summer, and we got canned. And at that point, for myself, for the team, we weren't getting paid anything at this point now. So just for all of us, all the work we put into it, we decided to release it for free. And so we had to set a sort of a goal date of 3 months from then, from May to sometime in August, to release it. And we did. And we were really happy with what we released. Looking back, now that we've released sort of the enhanced version of Daggerford, there was a lot under the hood that was just a mess and that needed fixing. But when it came out, it still hung together pretty well. We patched it a couple of times, and people received it well.
I remember when it came out, it was exciting, and I actually did play Darkness Over Daggerford way back in the day, and what I liked about it was, I was a pretty like meat and potatoes D&D guy, and to me, this was like the perfect two-fisted D&D action adventure that I was looking for in a Neverwinter Premium module, so I thought it was really fun. There's definitely, a lot of charm to games like Witch's Wake or some of those, but I like Darkness Over Daggerford because it just felt very core D&D to me, and I really appreciated that.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Thank you. The sort of my philosophy for making it was really coming from Baldur's Gate. I wanted an experience that I had with Baldur's Gate, which was the BioWare game I fell in love with and why I went to work at BioWare. So I wanted a game that you could explore the world, like BG1, and that's where we made the world map system, which didn't exist in Neverwinter up until that point. And the other big strength of Daggerford, sort of followed from Baldur's Gate, was all the side quests you get from exploring a world. You can go to areas and you have a bunch of things you can do. So the main narrative probably wasn't as strong as I'd want it to be in one of our games now, but the real strength of Daggerford when you play it is all the stuff that you find when you explore. Yep. It's really cool. Even when we reviewed it during the Enhanced Edition and going through all the quests and seeing all that we did, it's pretty amazing how much is in there.
It's an extensive game. I mean, when we were, as you said, going through the list of, hey, what kind of features are here, and when we tallied them all up, it was like, wow, this is actually kind of a big piece of content.
Well, I think it speaks a lot to kind of the flexibility of Neverwinter script that you were actually able to do something like that. Take a game that wasn't designed with a world map and then be able to inject it right into it. I mean, if you tried to take something like Baldur's Gate and do that, I'm going to go in the corner and just cry for a while about the world.
Yeah.
So would you say the world map is one of the features that you're most proud of in Daggerford?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah. Are there any other features that really stand out in your mind as like, wow, that wasn't around before?
I mean, we have a few features here and there, but I think the biggest one was the world map. I mean, we had other things. We had a flexible cutscene system that Kevin had written, and we had dynamic level scaling, which I know some people hate. we did it because it was a large world, and we couldn't predict necessarily levels, so we had that and random encounters to go with the world map, which was a Baldur's Gate thing again, not a Neverwinter thing, but it was mainly the world map.
Encounter scaling is one of those things that it's kind of like a necessary evil unless you are willing to just kill parties off for no reason. It's like, oh, if you go into the corner, oh, don't go around that corner, don't, oh man. Level 3 characters meet Death Knight. Level 3 characters die, and die bad.
So one of the last things I'll say I just remembered is that we built that game using a tile set that hadn't been released yet. At the time it was called the TNO tile set. I think it's called Rural 2 now in the official tile set list. But it hadn't been seen at that point. It had been developed by a different group and released in
the City of Doors group, wasn't it?
No, DLA.
DLA, right.
Yeah, they had built it, and BioWare had given it to us early on in development. So even though we got canceled, they still said, use it. I mean, you've built the whole game around it, and so we did. We released with that, but it was a tile set no one had seen. So back in the day, this was like, holy cow, these areas look fantastic. These huge cliffs and oceans, and it was really visually different and appealing. It was another selling point back in 2006.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Neverwinter looked good for a long, long time. I mean, it was a rough game because it was early in the age of 3D, but
we launched with hierarchical-based characters, and that was actually a decision. We could have gone skin-based, but it would have added another half year or a year to development, so we just made the call. We're going with what we've got. And then it wasn't until expansion 2 that we actually got skinned cloaks and cloaks and capes going.
But I mean, the stuff that people were able to pull off just with the existing effects was pretty amazing, like the fog and the weather stuff that people would put together. They kept that engine going for a long, long, long time.
Well, and speaking of keeping the engine going, I mean, internally we're looking at a lot of kind of new options and ideas on how to make things look even better going forward, both with existing content and enabling us to create even better new content. So it's an exciting future, man.
So, Alan, right now you're kind of working on some new character models for Neverwinter Nights, and I think we'd kind of shown off some of them ages ago. We showed off the male human.
Yeah, it was one of the male human kind of sets. We've done some additional work since then, but we're not really ready to roll things out yet. So.
Yeah, you'll eventually see it. Yeah, we've been doing the character stuff, and our lead artist Johnny Rhee has been really focusing a lot on making the right tools to do that. Because, like Trent said, BioWare didn't go for the skinning; they went for parts. And going back and updating all these parts is sort of is a big task. And you need to understand how Neverwinter works and develop tools that work with that system. But I've seen all the shots that Johnny's been sending me; that it's coming along really nice. He's showing me all the males, females, different races, different sizes. It's all going to be there. It's all going to look really good. I think players are going to really like the look of these updated character models.
I think so as well. One of the things that I see you guys are really working hard to do is preserve the style of the Neverwinter Nights original costumes.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge because, I mean, when you do an HD version of a game, it's very easy to say, well, let's just reimagine what this would have been and take it in a completely different direction.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Holmes was the art director back then, and Mark really had a good artistic eye. And so he put that into, I guess, the vision for the Neverwinter outfits and styles. And so we really wanted to keep that. At the same time, we don't have time to invest in coming up with another overall vision of what outfits should look like. That's something else entirely. So we wanted to focus on, I assume it was Mark Holmes' art direction for the style of costumes, and just find a way to update it and look a lot nicer. And yeah, you're right. It has translated very well into the new stuff.
Well, I think the key thing is that Mark really wanted to focus on the silhouette, understanding that your character is always going to be seen kind of top down, at a distance. You needed to be able to kind of differentiate your character from other characters.
Strong
and then
shapes.
as well learn kind of the silhouette of your party members if you're adventuring with friends, so that you can quickly visually identify each other. And just carrying that vision forward makes so much sense.
Yeah, I agree. And Johnny gets that kind of stuff. I know from talking with him, the silhouette. So we got the silhouettes, and in terms of the form of the characters, but the other side of it is all the new technology stuff that Beamdog's been putting in for, the shaders and materials. Like I look at these things and you're mixing the leather with the plate mail and the chain, and they all have different shaders on, and it looks it's so awesome. I get excited looking at it because I can imagine playing a game that can look radically different from what it used to look like, from what it was like in 2002, 2003. This will be a lot more modern for people.
And I think so there's new assets coming, absolutely, but another exciting thing is we're looking into what can we do that doesn't require replacing assets.
Well, and just looking at kind of the existing Neverwinter Nights lighting schema, because it's highly optimized around the era when it was launched, and as a result, it makes use of a lot of per vertex lighting. It makes use of a lot of static. So calculate once and then cache. So these are kind of things that we're likely going to be tearing down as we move it forward and moving to a more dynamic system. So there's a lot of work to be done. We've got a lot of kind of core stuff to tear apart and rethink, and then literally just go through all of the existing content, make sure it still looks good, that we can do the things we want to do. And we've also got frameworks, like when you build an area, you kind of have this appearances tab in the tool set where you can adjust the lighting and so on. We have to still play within that framework, but at the same time, we want to enable new things to happen. So we got a lot of work in front of us. A lot of work.
It's exciting, though. I'm really looking forward to the day when I boot up, Hordes of the Underdark or the Wailing Death, and it just looks spectacular. And it looks like a completely new experience, even though we've just changed the underlying mechanics of the engine to make it look a lot better.
I agree, and that's the whole exciting part of the potential for the enhanced edition. Like I've seen people in the past, what's enhanced about this? Yeah, you're seeing some of it, but the benefit is all that's coming. All that we have in the works, it's going to, like you said, look like a whole new game, and that's the difference.
Yep.
And it's,
I'm very, very excited to see where we take this thing.
Yep.
Actually, before we let you go, Alan, we have one question from the audience. Have you ever seen the Blood War tile set?
The Blood War.
Yeah,
now I think that was
tiles.
made by the City of Doors, wasn't it? Or
I vaguely remember seeing it in the Neverwinter Vault.
It could have been made by Remington Studios. I think I remember Andy worked on. There was a mod, a premium mod that had been pitched with BioWare about the Blood War, and I think that's what this is. And it got canned because I think Wizards didn't want to go that route at the time. So I've never seen it except for in a few screenshots, because we eventually worked with the people from Remington Studios to do the art.
It was called Doomguard.
Doomguard? Okay.
I think it was called Doomguard.
And that was, I'm pretty sure that was City of Doors.
Yeah, and we worked with those guys, or for a portion of them, later on. They did the creatures for Mysteries of Westgate. But yeah, originally when I found them, I saw the shots of that. Yeah, they look pretty cool.
Niv just messaged us saying, everyone's looking for this tile set that doesn't exist anywhere.
I was wrong.
It was never actually released, so...
I swear I remember seeing a pitch for a game that was called Doomguard. It was set in Planescape. It used Neverwinter. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was just a modder thing or if it was an actual official pitch that I saw and should not be revealing right now.
The answer is the latter, and the lawyers will be climbing all over you.
I remember seeing Doomguard in big text. Maybe that was just the original name for Planescape Tournament.
No, I remember seeing some artwork by Todd Grenier that was around the Doomguard. I'm trying to remember what it was.
It's a strong-ass name, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it's all good.
Doomguard,
well, thanks for coming on here, Alan.
Yeah.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
It's been a hoot, and as always, our hour has almost disappeared on us, which kind of happens really quick because we basically just
BS for an hour.
Goof off for an hour, and people watch it.
It's fun, though. It's fun. And thanks for having me on today. And I just want to say thanks to all the Daggerford fans who've been enjoying the enhanced edition of our Darkness Over Daggerford game. Thank you for getting it again, and I hope you enjoyed playing the new version.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that we could actually get together and do a deal on that so that people could actually buy it and reward you guys for doing all that hard work.
It was a nice thing after all these years to finally become a premium mod, which is what we always wanted.
The moral of the story is when there's no real publishers and it's just developers, people get paid.
I'm all for that.
One day soon, you'll get to play Darkness Over Daggerford on your phone. It's coming, man.
We just gotta finish that.
All right, Alan, we're going to cut you loose. Thanks for joining us, and we'll have to have you back on in the near future.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care. Okay, I'm going to dump the headset so I don't have to hear Phil in my ear really loud.
There's not a loud hissing noise.
Or a Phil in my ear. I get enough Phil in my ear right now. I don't need double Phil. Double Phil is a dark
thing.
Listen
to the abuse that I get. This is ridiculous. All right, questions from the audience before we have to wrap up.
Is there any way to win a Baldur's Gate 2 t-shirt? I'm assuming like the one I am sporting. So this is back in the era when we made really uncomfortable t-shirts. I think this was the actual first semi-comfortable t-shirt. This was before Dan came along and made us buy decent t-shirts.
Dan actually destroyed the remaining stock of Baldur's Gate 2 t-shirts because they were Gildan trash.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Gildan. That
so
was
I actually have bootleg shirts at my shop that I actually use as rags because we get them printed out for a PAX panel that I was on. And when I opened the box, I was so offended at how horrible they were. I refused to let anyone ever see them. And I just used them as rags.
The forbidden shirts.
I cut them apart and used them as rags.
So when he comes in wearing a ripped up, BG2 shirt, it's one of the rags.
Actually, my original Planescape Torment shirt, I wore it so much, it actually started to fall apart. So it kind of went through my natural progression, which was, okay, it's got a couple holes in the armpits, and okay, I'll just rip the sleeves off. So I had a sleeveless Planescape Torment shirt. And then I used it for landscaping work, and it just got even more destroyed. So eventually it became like a tank top because the neck was ripped out of it. And then eventually it became a rag.
I could see the nameless one wearing a shirt like that. Like he just rips the sleeves off. He's got his big scarred arms everywhere. It'd be good.
Here's a question. What do you think of the proposed collector's catalog for the collector's edition for Neverwinter Nights on the forum?
So I like the idea of having variety and letting the user kind of customize what they want to get. The issue is just how the hell do we build that?
Well, how do we build that? So the way it works is if you order 1,000 of something, it costs a fair amount of money. If you order 3,000 of something, it costs a little less. You order 5,000 of one thing, it costs even less. You get 10,000 and suddenly economies of scale start to kick in and it starts to get affordable. So if you had this kind of catalog where you have all these things that people can buy, we would basically have to buy and stack 10,000 of them and have them all sitting there and essentially be individually putting each one together. For a company our size, it's just not feasible.
So the plan right now is we're looking into some new collector's editions, but we're trying to find a good partner. So you have feelers out there. We're chatting with a few different organizations who could help us build this stuff.
Yep.
And then once we have a partner that we're really comfortable with, we're going to point them at that thread, sit down with them and say, okay, what's feasible, what's not, what could we actually produce for a reasonable cost for these people?
Yep.
And we'll see what we can turn out. But collector's editions are definitely on our radar. I personally would love to do a Baldur's Gate collector's edition in the near future because it's the 20th anniversary of Baldur's Gate.
It's coming up. I believe it's December 24th.
Yep. So we're trying to make that happen. It's a little late in the year.
Not 24th.
Somewhere around there.
All I remember is thinking, oh my God, we better ship this goddamn thing because it's almost Christmas. 20th. December 20th.
There you go.
It was close.
So I really want to make that happen. We've got some tasks out there. We're trying to find people. And yeah, if you out there viewing the stream happen to run a fulfillment service house that builds collector's editions, hey, give me a call or an email or just send me a text. I'm on Signal. I'm a spy.
So here's a long post here. Infinity Engine games have incredible concept art, sketches, maps, portraits, wallpapers, and more. Back in the late 90s, gaming art books weren't popular, but now they are one of the best collectible items for gamers. Is there some possibility for a big format, full-color Infinity Engine games art book like those published by Dark Horse or Titan Books in cooperation with game developers? Maybe.
I think at a bare minimum, if we do a BG Collector's Edition, some art inside of it would definitely be part of the package.
Yeah, we'd probably put some new art in and then as well have some of the legacy art that's there. Again, part of the reason we did the enhanced editions was that a lot of the original source art was lost, so doing high kind of fidelity versions of it would be a challenge.
I will say, though, I feel as if there's a market. Like, if you took all of the Infinity Engine map renders and just made, like, a book of page after page of these detailed maps, I think people would be interested in that.
I think so, too. I mean, those are pretty big images.
Atlas, the Baldur's Gate Atlas, that's what we'll call it.
I remember Baldur's Gate, before we broke it into all the districts, rendering Baldur's Gate in 3D Studio Max was literally grinding a machine to a dead stop for a week plus.
And those were P-Pros, weren't they?
Yeah, and you'd be rendering, and then you would finally, because you couldn't see it as it was progressing, you could see kind of a blurry version, but then finally it's done, and you see a glaring flaw, and you're like, that week was just wasted.
So you might notice that a lot of the wilderness areas in Baldur's Gate 1 are actually just like clone-stamped trees and cliffs and whatnot.
Yep.
And the reason for that is they didn't really want to take a full week for, some random outdoor area.
There was actually an area that had this... I forget what it's called when it
goes up and then it's one of those like impossible
Escher.
images.
Yeah, it's an Escher image where you go down a hill and then you go up a hill and it's like it's impossible.
We're getting the cutoff from
Dan's telling us
here.
We're gone. It says closing hard, fast, and true.
Okay, we're going to see you later. One t-shirt goes to Heavy Line.
Heavy Line.
All right, we'll see you next Friday, folks. Stay tuned. We got some exciting Neverwinter Nights stuff coming, like NW Sync, and we'll talk about it next Friday.
Well, not coming yet, but...
Well, you'll see more of it. Always undercutting.
Toodles. Always.